people maybe are used to being sort of bombarded at this point with the news of what's happening, and that's the reality, and we need to face that. I think alongside that, we need to make moments of, of grounding, of rootedness, and remembering our real belonging to this earth, because without that, we don't quite have the energy, I think. I think we're really zapped of that based from stress or from what we're hearing. It is oppressive to hear what's happening and to experience it for those of us who are experiencing that and have been. I guess for me, that's really what draws me to the arts-based kinmaking is we have to find ways to reconnect, and that's inevitably going to shift, in my opinion, how we then act in the world. And that kind of transformation is deeply important in times of crises.
If I live, let me live with my arms stretched out, ready to commit myself in, resting to the ground. Oh, I lately spy in my human time.
Episode 221. My conversation with Annais, Linares, and Ben Finley, artists, researchers, soundmakers, about their performance of Alchemizing Earthfulness, a composition that explores self-rootedness, community connectedness, and earth intimacy. The concert was part of a West Bend Chalk Talk concert on November 9th, 2024, on the traditional territory of the Mishi-Sagig Anishinaabeg Nation, near what is now known as Campbellford, Ontario. So, this episode is a bit unusual because you'll hear excerpts from the concert combined with a post-concert conversation with Annais and Ben. And they talk about the composition, but also how it addresses the theme of this season, crisis, collapse, and renewal. And there's an emphasis on renewal and joy in this conversation, as you'll hear. A reminder that you can learn more about Green Dreamer's Alchemize program in episode 161 of Conscient. Arts-based kin making. So I'm with Annais and Ben, who I met at the Alchemize course. And could one of you tell us where we are?
Yes, we are at the West Bend Schoolhouse, which is one of the venues of an arts organization called West Bend. And it's on Michi-Sagig land, close to the town called Campbellford, which is a small town of about 3,400 people.
It sounds like a church, but it's actually an old schoolhouse, right?
It's an old schoolhouse, yeah. So the bell still works, and it's a cozy little space.
And what's the event I just heard, a bunch of us just heard?
Yeah, we just performed Alchemizing Earthfulness, where we did a set of multiple original songs that were based around the Alchemize program that Kamea Shane and Green Dreamer put together, and essentially talked through some of our own dissertation work and the Alchemize offerings with the themes that were shared at that time.
Aren't you just leaning forward and singing? I wonder what the heck that means. So anyway, we're so pumped about this. Our two guest artists today are wonderful, wonderful people, dear friends, family of West Bend here. Annais Linares is a vocalist, musician, and social practice artist, studying arts-based kin making. Everybody see that? Arts-based
kin making.
Why they're on this planet? Anyway, Ben Finley, at the age of 14, and I remember at the age of 14, Ben Finley plucked his first bass string. Everything changed. Immediately, things fell still, without worry, in a playful possibility. Miraculously, that feeling remains. Ben Finley is a collaborative and solo performer, composer, singer, improviser, and writer, grounded in creative acoustic and electric bass playing.
Almost a year ago now, Annais and I had the privilege to take part in a program called Alchemize. So Alchemize was a multi-month audio listening program hosted by a podcast that we really love called Green Dreamer. And if you're into podcasts, highly recommend it. It's really awesome. It goes really deep, and it invites a range of speakers who are talking on the intersections of the ecological and social different crises, and also proposing really beautiful imaginative possibilities. So I wanted to read to you the description of the Alchemized audio program that we undertook. So with 10 weeks of daily guided imagination, embodiment, and multisensory prompts and practices, led by 20 visionaries, dreamers, and shapeshifters, this quietly experimental offering was created to enrich our dreaming habits for more life-affirming possibilities. This is an invitation to deepen our self-rootedness, community connectedness, and earth intimacy. Expand our creativity through speculative fantasizing, and alchemize so we may further embody the changes we wish to see. We welcome you to play and alchemize with us. So that's the description. And I just wanted to pick up 3 things from that, which was self-rootedness, community connectedness, and earth intimacy.
And do you remember, can you recite off the 5 themes?
So into beingness, into porousness, into otherness, into belongingness, and into earthfulness. Yeah.
And I'll refer listeners to episode 161, where we talked about that on the Conscient podcast with Kamea and the other colleagues in that cohort. So we have that in common, that we've done a course or a series of creative exercises to deepen our connection with everything. But I was very impressed by the music you made today, and I wonder for listeners, because the theme this season is art and culture in times of crisis and collapse, and I didn't feel too much like we were in a crisis or collapse today, which is nice.
Yeah.
We're in a nice stable place. People love the concert. So first of all, tell me about the concert. Like, what is it? What about the music that you've created? A bit more detail about that. And then how might it connect to healing or any other purpose that the
It's true, we didn't quite talk about the crisis or collapse element of it, but it was definitely a sort of subtext that we were thinking about a lot when we were composing the work. So basically, Annais and I co-composed the 5 thematic songs to the themes Annais just said. And it was just a beautiful process. I think it really just tried to integrate some of what we came up with through the Alchemize program. I feel like there was just so much bubbling through that program that I'm still integrating and digesting and sitting with. And so the music flowed pretty naturally, I would say, pretty quickly, because it just kind of needed a home to go to. And
I think that it speaks to the regeneration aspect of your work, Ben. because essentially you mentioned, Claude, that this work was a bit more of a healing kind of space as opposed to direct conversation about the crises and the collapse of many, many different things happening around us. And I think there are moments for this that need to happen in order for us as humans to feel rejuvenated, reconnected, re-energized, to continue the good work that needs to happen. It's a sort of ebb flow, breath in, breath out, and I think this was, a nice breath out in some ways. So we didn't intentionally try to move in that direction, but I think as a personal call of mine, at least, there is something about bringing people together and remembering who we are a little bit, and not simply in ways that are going to energize us toward, working toward these issues, but also to sort of ground down. And I think that that's essentially what the show was able to, feel like.
I had a good time.
Oh, good.
Which, and I read a lot of dark stuff,
Yeah,
and I know you understand the issues really well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very uplifting to hear about connection, about feeling, about joy, walking.
Yeah.
Especially the very end. I was telling Alchemizing that the annais, the very end, when there's that kind of scaling upwards, is so powerful. What about that end?
Yeah, that end was really fun. So that's how we began the whole show too, with annais playing a similar kind of scaling kind of thing. And I think, like, you're right, it plays with our perception a little bit, because it's going higher in musical terms, let's say, but it also is kind of like, for me, also peeling something, or like opening some sort of thing. So it just kind of felt like a way to all be together through a movement of sorts. I don't know if you have anything else.
Well, you plugged the bass for the first time in the whole show.
That's right at the very end. That was my big bang out. Yeah, I think the grounding of that is really interesting because, again, as Ben mentioned, it sort of encircled the whole show. So we really felt that was a moment that could return us almost cyclically from beginning to end to beginning in a composting way, or, that reminder that we start from wherever we start from and then we end there too, and it just keeps going. So I think that idea is very grounded.
We've had some interesting conversations about mindsets, and mindsets change all the time, I think, but like, it's interesting the comparison with hope and resolve too. Like, resolve is also another beautiful, I think, it kind of pushes past the should we be hopeful or not hopeful thing. It's kind of another offering in that scope of like, well, here we are, So, but I think there are so many shades of hope, which are interesting too. It also makes me think about, I guess, going back to the individual isn't as powerful as we make it out to be sometimes. I feel like some of the work that we like to do, I think, is just engaging with place and just being outside, and sometimes that it's not necessarily we choose a disposition and like, let's be a certain way for this tree or something, that like just being there opens something in us too, that, and a lot of times there's such a empowerment or beautiful thing in that, taking time, that is just, it feels almost more given than we put on ourselves as a disposition. But obviously there's a soup of different ways to go about that. But it just made me think about that too, how sometimes going through the connection, maybe the healing or the being together, can open up what our experience is, and it's not all of us choose a disposition maybe.